Supply chain chokeholds and leaps in prices during the pandemic, and now the global economy is being sent on another unpredictable course due to the ongoing war in Ukraine by President Vladimir Putin. On Let's Talk this week, our focus is on the economic effect of Russia's invasion in Ukraine and the global, basically the invasion on the economy. And I believe that that's going to, it's a story, but it has to be told. Hello and welcome. My name is Oluja Kemasaku. On Let's Talk, my guest is Barrister Jeremiah Ajibade, a lawyer and public policy analyst. But before we delve into the topic proper, I'd like to remind you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Please stay with us. Thank you so much, Barrister Ajibade, for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here.
Okay.
Good afternoon from this side of the world.
All right. No one in the world is oblivious of the war in Ukraine. What is the state of the world right now in the midst of all of this chaos?
The state of the world at the moment right now is quite very unstable. It's unstable because the war between Ukraine and Russia has caused quite a lot of instability. No one saw this coming, I must say honestly. Today is the 23rd day of this war. Nobody saw this coming. As at 26 days ago, when all the world policy analysts came together, they said, because it's almost impossible for Ukraine to join NATO. So everybody agreed, and it was quite clear. Nobody saw that Putin was going to invade Russia. So we felt in honesty that it was just a mere threat, and things are just going to get back and everything will go stable. But it's quite unfortunate that Russia invaded Ukraine, and then understanding that energy, food supply, Ukraine and Russia, major supply to the world. And now it seems like quite a lot of things are going to be unstable for quite a while, because even as of today, if you read Wall Street journals, if you read real-time magazines, they would tell you that as at the present day in the world, things are going to skyrocket, and it's going to affect almost everybody, especially the low-income earners. Things are going to be tough on everyone.
Okay, I would like to know what is this NATO all about that Putin wouldn't want Ukraine to be part of it? What are the benefits, or what exactly?
NATO came to be after the Second World War. And the reason why NATO came to be was because the world power wanted to forestall every opportunity of the Third World War to arise. They wanted an opportunity to have a check on most of the countries that could be a threat to the world. And then in 1990, the United States, coupled with other countries of the world, saw the USSR then as a threat to the world. And then they did what we call democratization and change. Before then, USSR had not been a democratized society. And then we felt that, okay, the world felt that because of growth and development, it is needful and necessary that there should be, the people should be allowed to decide to elect their own leaders and pick who could govern them. So the USSR, as I did, which had quite a number of nations, 16 of them, felt threatened. And then eventually there was a success on the plan to destabilize this confederation. It used to be a confederation, this confederacy, and then they broke them down. And then suddenly, the power that used to be held when we had the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc, and it seems like the Western Bloc suddenly became too powerful, and the United States, who happens to be the champion of the Western Bloc, became the supremacist. And then everybody in the world, especially the world power that never loved the United States or never wanted to align with the policies of the US, felt it was needful for them to develop their own skills and their own arsenals, which they did. And then NATO came on board as a means of checkmating, as a means of being able to watch what a particular country is doing. You wouldn't find any African country in all of this because it is quite believed that no African country has the arsenals or has the intelligence to build some of these world machineries. So Africa at no time was a threat, and Africa at no time will be a threat. We hope some days Africa will be a threat as we grow and we see reason to grow. But in the meantime, so countries that were within the Atlantic regions were, many of them joined because they wanted to be protected. NATO is a superior power of military strength to check on. You could see what they did in quite a number of countries. They've done it before. They've done it in Iraq. They've done it in some of these Asian countries. And then now it seems like Russia feels that if Ukraine joins NATO, this is the honest belief of Putin, that if Ukraine joins NATO, Ukraine being behind at the back, sharing boundaries with Russia, is going to be an opportunity for NATO to check on the military prowess of Ukraine, of Russia rather. And Russia feels that you cannot be a friend to my enemy and then want me to oust you and accommodate you honestly. Putin is threatened by NATO, and Putin knows that the only way you can put a limit, like you can bracket NATO within its strength, is not allowing Ukraine to join NATO. Don't forget that the two countries share so much ties together. They used to be part of the USSR together. And Russia was the headquarters of all these countries. So Poland and all of them coming together. And so Russia felt, you can't threaten me, you can't be a friend to my enemy, and then expect me to have the open arms around you. So that was exactly why this whole thing happened. So NATO basically is a combination of 28 countries coming together to form a military strength in order to be able to checkmate or to forestall the World War III, in order not to allow any other thing that would cause mankind quite a terrible pain upon again.
In other words, I should suffice me to say that that means Putin has so many things to hide and to protect as regards his finances, and that he has been in the leadership position of Russia for 22 years.
Yes, Putin has a lot to hide. Same way Osama bin Laden has a lot to hide. The same way world leaders that were dictatorial had a lot to hide. Putin has a lot to hide. And you wouldn't be surprised that now Putin has been voted as a life president of Russia. So until Putin dies, he's going to remain in power. So it's quite a tough one. The same way thing with Russia and China. And now that it seems like China and Russia are forming a strong ally. I am so sure now at the moment, maybe later in the day, I guess, the United States president is going to be on phone with the president of China, tenderly warning him not to join hands with Putin on this war, and then telling him the consequences of what is going to happen to him if he tries to do that. Because it is very glaring that China is willing in all of its strength to form an alliance with China and with Russia. Russia cannot sell its oil as they used to, even though US was just not so much a major buyer, but they were purchasing oil from Russia. But now it seems as if cut ties from Russia. You could even see that the United States that used to buy gas for $1.8 per barrel now buys gas at $4 per barrel, because everybody in the world is being affected economically by this war. So Putin has a whole lot to hide. Putin has everything to hide. And the only thing Putin is trying to put up to the world is the dominance of the Western world is enough. The Western world is more of like an hypocrite. The United States has been a country where you've even done worse in time past. So the United States is trying to push Ukraine as against what Ukraine has the capacity to bear, and then now leave Ukraine in the middle. Just 3 days ago or 4 days ago, United States voted $800 million worth of military mercenary to Ukraine. And then it will surprise you that Putin was saying that even if those things leave the United States and they land in Poland, which is the major, because I heard the United States Vice President saying they are going to land in Poland. But the truth of the matter is it's going to be tough for them to move it into Ukraine, because Putin is going to resist this with everything he has. He's going to resist it. So Putin has a whole lot to hide, and he's not doing it in secret. He's hiding, but he's not doing it secretly. He's hiding things, and he's making it open. That I heard him say 2 days ago that he knows what he can send to the United Kingdom, and then he will sink the United Kingdom in 5 minutes.
Okay.
I read it from him. So it is very possible. Putin has a whole lot. Putin has too many things to use against the world. Missiles that are so destructive. So everybody wants to checkmate Putin. Everybody wants to put him where he belongs. And that's what the United States and other countries are doing at the moment.
Okay. So now going further in the economic effect of this war on global economy, what are the potential stagnation that this will have on this invasion actually will have?
This is where everybody should get concerned. This is where every reasonable country, and this is where Africa should get concerned. It's worrisome, and I must say it's quite worrisome. The damage that this is going to have is colossal. And it seems as of today, all head of states or presidents across democratic states across Africa and the world have not seen a reason to quickly put all their strength in order to curb the difficult effect. Because it must be clear that the war between Russia and Ukraine is going to be felt around the world. It's going to be felt through either from energy to food purchase and food importation and exportation. It's going to be felt on the global economy as a whole, on the key on the per capita index of the world. It's going to be felt by the GDPs of nations. It's going to be felt by everything. If you take a critical example of this, look at, Russia and Ukraine are major exporter of wheat across the world. As a matter of fact, to shock you, these two countries provide 30% of the world consumption of wheat. 30%. So automatically, if you are taking 30% out, the world is going to grapple with 70% that are remaining. And this 70% also is subject to the fact that on the high sea, if they are working within the economic zones of these countries that are in battle, they are going to have issues to pass. A bomb could eat anybody, missile could eat any food supply, and then we'll go back to where we were. It's quite a terrible situation we are, but it seems at this instance, nobody. Okay, let me give you a critical example. Let me take Nigeria as a case study. Bread in Nigeria was sold for 500. Bread was sold at lesser price. Then I got to the grocery yesterday. I realized that a 10% increment had happened on bread. Now you look at energy. Look at energy. Energy is the same. Look at fertilizer. Don't forget that fertilizer, the major supplier, 15% of the fertilizer used across the world is supplied by Russia. And now it doesn't look like. And then Africa, Nigeria majorly, buys mostly from this country. And now that it seems things are bad, see, everybody, and it's quite painful because this is the time Nigeria, a country like this, my country, Nigeria, could have benefited more highly now that crude had increased per barrel, to like $130 per barrel. If this country had been able to fix its own problem over time, by now, our budget is running at $40 per barrel, or 40 something, between $40 and $45 per barrel. We would have been able to raise money in our excess crude account. But now, there's nothing to hold on to because we did not see this opportunity coming as a means of raising funds for our country. We never saw it coming because we were sleeping. But other countries who are OPEC members saw it coming and they were able to make the best out of it. So the economic downturn on every citizen is going to be tough. And I including of myself anyways, because we live in the same country together. So we will just encourage, in all honesty, everybody at this point to put our lands on deck and see how best we can make of the situation.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's quickly go on this break, and when we come back, we continue from there. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. The program is Let's Talk on DNC Work, and have been speaking with Barrister Jeremiah Ajibade. Well, and it's been wonderful so far. And the topic has been on this Ukraine-Russia invasion and its effect on the global economy. Thank you for standing by, Barrister.
Thank you. It's a privilege. It's a privilege.
Yeah. There's been a spike in oil prices in US, and you just mentioned Nigeria. And basically, it's really, really taking a toll on Nigerians because the experiences and what we've been seeing on social media, although the Nigerians try to make a lemon out of a lemonade, but it's still something that is worth talking about. So what we call fuel scarcity, and the worst of is power outage. So if you actually don't have power and you want to get fuel to be able to generate some sort of power for yourself, right now is really, really difficult. Now, practically every sector is troubled globally. How fast do you think the world will recover economically and otherwise?
Well, if I had to talk about hope, perhaps I'm going to quote the words of one-time wonderful president of the United States, Barack Obama, who spoke about hope. But if we're going to look at the figures on the table and go by those figures, things might not return to status quo in a very short time. Mm. When are we going to get free from this? When are we going to be able to project and have our projection? You saw the report by the NNPC or by the Accountant General or the Auditor General of Nigeria, who said that 107 million barrels of petrol cannot be accounted for in 2019 by the Nigerian National Petroleum Commission or Corporation. And then you would begin to wonder, where is that coming from? And honestly, where is that coming from? So the problem is that we have capacity to reject every means of suffering Nigerians are going through. And then we have leaders who are determined, who are intentional about the sufferings our citizens are going through. Is there any, I'm going to ask, is there any policy for education in this country? ASU is on strike for 2 months or 3 months now. Is there any possibility that the pipelines are not going to be busted? No. Is there any future policy? There is no policy on ground at the moment. So there is no way I'm going to assure you that we're going to recover from these shackles we are in such a short time. I can promise you that there is no way I'm going to own up in a word and give a word that is not possible. Understanding the fact that the indices are not even showing any green light. The indices are not giving any possible ray of hope that everybody can hang on and say, okay, this is going to happen the next 2 months or 3 months. The way the budget You know that as far as Nigeria is concerned, and this also goes through everybody across the world, I'm not sure the gas in the US will go back to 1.8 liter, dollar to a liter. So quick. There's nobody, even not President Joe Biden, can make that guarantee, because as long as the war in Ukraine and Russia goes on, there is no possibility of, now the US is running to Venezuela. This is the same Venezuela that they call the president of Venezuela a dictator. Now they see a reason to want to form alliance with Venezuela, because they know now that their ally, who is Russia, who they buy a bit of oil from, now they're in trouble, and the US and Russia are no longer laughing at each other. So now the US feels, because let's go to Venezuela and then let's rub the back of this man we have always attacked. And they forgot that Putin and the president of Venezuela are 5 and 6. They are very, very close friends. And now you want to go and buy again, you want to go and trade with the friend, my friend, and you're my enemy, is going to be tough. So this whole thing looks like it's not going to return to status quo in short a little time. It's going to take quite a while. It's a time for everybody to brace up and spend within their economic strength, not buying excesses of things, either ostentatious goods or whatever identity you give to them. Whatever you don't need, don't acquire. And it's time to cut everything down and live a good life. I just think we should cut on our expenses, and then everybody will find.
Okay, finally, we see the power of unity play out among the Ukrainians, and President Zelensky's commitment to his people. Should we be hopeful, and how would you advise the world on coming together to actually make the world a better place? Also, I would want you to also see if this kind of example should be followed by our leaders in Nigeria.
You said Zelensky is forming a unity with the Ukrainians.
Yes.
But I say that, see, whatever unity you form at the expense of your people, to me, it's a charade. The peace talk between Russia and Ukraine has come on and come on and come on and come on. You saw, if you had been following Zelensky himself, Zelensky has been addressing the US Congress, soliciting for help. The first thing he wanted the US to do for him was to have a no-fly zone for him. But the US cannot. Number one, Ukraine has its own sovereignty. And are you selling out your sovereignty? Are you saying a country should come in and control your own country at the expense of the constitution that runs your country? Which the US will not, because of international law. It will be a total abuse and gross insult on international law that US come into a territory that has sovereignty. So let me come back to Zelensky. Now, the place of Ukraine, if I was Zelensky, I'll go back to the drawing board with my men. See, this is no longer a time for you to be egoistic and just wanting to prove a point and wanting to fight a war that is unreasonable. Zelensky should go back to the drawing board. In the first place, Zelensky said, oh yes, I won't be joining NATO. Obviously, it's going to be tough for Zelensky to join NATO. Why? Because if there are 28 countries in NATO, there are countries that will never vote for Ukraine to be part of NATO. And I'm sure of 3-4 countries that would not want NATO Ukraine to join NATO. But that being said, we'll go back to the peace talk Zelensky has been having over times. Now he has proposed another peace talk for himself and Putin to talk in Jerusalem. Now Israel has been so quiet about this, but we're not even going to deal with Israel now. Now let's go straight to the question you asked. The Ukrainian people want peace. The Ukrainian people deserve peace. The Ukrainian people deserve to wake up in their house, to sleep on their bed, to have their jobs, and to return in peace to their homes. See, war is not in any ways. If you've seen war, I've seen war as a little child. And I would never encourage anybody to see war, because war will make you, it will destabilize your plans and cause you. Look at the devastations and the destructions. Now, US Zelensky saying 3 days ago that by May, Ukraine will be rebuilt. Ukraine cannot be rebuilt before May. We're not even sure this war is going to end before. Nobody knew this war is going to continue for 23 days. Now, it's gone 23 days, and we don't know when it's going to end. So now, the unity in Ukraine now is to see all possibilities to end this war and end this war with Russia. Russia has said it again and again that Ukraine should not be a part of NATO. As long as that can be guaranteed, they don't have a problem. And you also have the right, they have the right to decide if they want to join NATO or not. It's a sovereign state. I'm a Nigerian. I have no reasons to decide for Zelensky what he does with these people. But I also feel they should be able to ask themselves the question, to what extent? Look at Austria. Look at the pact that was signed with Austria many, many years ago. And Austria has maintained the state of that agreement till today. Even though we also know in the next 10, 20, 50 years, that agreement, that pact with Austria might not stand, because a president might rise up and say, no, this is enslavement. This is total slavery to my people. I'm not going to take this any longer. And that's exactly what Zelensky is trying to do. That no, we have the right to join who we want to join, but who's at what stake, at whose expense. The world needs to come together at such a critical time. We need to form the brotherhood of growth beyond what the world had called, oh, my interest, my interest, my interest, my interest. We need to come together and see how we can. And it's not about you and I. Honestly, it's not about you. It's not about myself. It's about the posterity that are coming behind us. And then they need to see how better we wrote the world, so we can hand over to them a credible leadership, credible policy, credible society where they can live in and say thank you to us after they've grown.
All right, thank you so much for that. We actually the end time. I would want to say thank you for coming on the show. It's indeed a great privilege to have you. Thank you once again.
It's a privilege.
And to you out there, thank you so much for being part of the show. Thank you as always. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Until next time, I remain Olujoke Musako. Bye for now. Thank you.